Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. You can also call me Atrocious, and today we've got another local tournament, this time at night and day. I was able to go on a Monday, fit in my schedule and get in 4 rounds of this local tournament. And so in this game, first of all, thank you so much to the players for allowing me to record their game, as well as store owner Will for allowing me to record in their store as well, and also to the player on the right, Jareen, showcasing that beautiful deck box there. If you love Dueling Guard, I have a new discount code with them if you're interested in saving a little bit of money and supporting the channel. Link is in the description below. Use code JAKE5 to save 5% off your order. But anyways, we're off into this game. It's a Moira mirror now. Gecko Moria, as OP06 has released, has proven to be one of the more popular decks in the format. So a lot of people are excited about it, playing it, especially with the Sakazuki ban incoming. A lot of people wanting to switch over to this deck once Sakazuki is banned. So kind of playing it now at this point. So going in now, it is 5 cards each side. I'm not 100% sure who won it or who decided, but the player on the right instantly doing a mulligan on that one. So we see a couple things in this Moira on the right's hand. We saw Kuzan flashed there, obviously with the Surus and Sindris. That's not really a surprise. Helmeppo, great addition in the 8-cost Moira that came in OP06 as well. And the player on the left putting out their life, that 5 life, deciding to keep the hand. Sabo also being played on the right side. Sabo, a really good card that I think a lot of people are playing a lot of lately. So we'll see how influential it is in this matchup. 5 cards to the right. Got to keep that hand no matter what, because you mulliganed, and we're off. So there's the knuckle touch. It looks like, who's going first? It looks like the player on the left is going first. And so the turn 1 play that they don't have is a Sindri. Sindri, a great turn 1 option, or brand new if you're going second to build up your trash. Sindri, great if you're going first to discard 5, and then Sindri or brand new if you're going second to be able to, like I said, build up your trash. So brand new and pass for the player on the right, moving into the player on the left now at 3 Dawn. So what you could do, there's a couple different options. One of the options that some players try to do is use leader effects. So you attach 1 Dawn, swing 6, trash a card, and then rest 2. A lot of times you'll see players, if they didn't get a turn 1 Sindri or brand new, trash a card from their hand that is a Thriller Bark Pirate, because you have to trash a card from that leader effect and then you gain a Thriller Bark Pirate. The Perona effect, because the player on the right had more than 5 cards in hand, had to trash a card, so they're going to go ahead and pitch an Absalon to be able to use off the leader effect. Really good coordination, and then took the life that was a Great Eruption. That Great Eruption, with that trigger, discard a card from your opponent's hand. The opponent on the left choosing brand new as the card to trash. And so now going into the player on the right's turn here at 4 Dawn, could use 1 for the leader effect. If they did have something like a Great Eruption, the Great Eruption in hand could get the Perona to 2, and then they would be able to draw a card off that and then use leader effect with the rest of the 3 Dawn to bring out Absalom. But with that Great Eruption coming off of the trigger, is just going to be a bare 5 swing. So I don't know, maybe if I would have done that trigger, honestly, with the Great Eruption, because I feel like taking out the Perona is a good thing to be able to do. Oh, the promo packs coming in this early game, but maybe you're saving a lot of those things for the 8-drop Gecko Moiras and stuff that come later in the game. So going to be playing a Kuzan and passing after the player on the left took that life, no trigger, and we move on to the 5 Dawn turn for the player on the left. So going to need to start establishing a board presence, right? They've got a couple Navy cards in the trash, but not really Thrillerbug Pirates at all. I think it's Kuzan, Borsalino, and Branu. One thing that you're looking for if you're the Gecko Moria is another option for the Thrillerbug Pirates. We don't actually see their hand. Make sure to subscribe and support the channel if you want us to eventually get hand cams to be able to put on and showcase a little bit more gameplay in, or what's the, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But anyways, going into this turn, again, 5 life at this point. The player on the right does have 6 cards in hand, so a Perona would get them to trash a card, but the player on the left is going to do a Sindri. It looks like Great Eruption, 2 Peronas, and a Sabo hitting the trash. So there's some options there, and the Gecko Moria could be grabbed with a Dr. Hogback if you do have one of those in your hand, or eventually in the bin to use off of the leader effect. So going to be swinging that Perona and catching another Absalom. Going to be swinging Bear off of this Moira right here. So maybe having a 4-cost character to be able to play down. Could be an Absalom, could be a Dr. Hogback like I had mentioned. And so we'll see exactly what they try to do on this 5k swing. Now with 5 cards in their hand, right? Probably not a Perona since we've already seen 3 on the player on the left. So going to be trashing the Borsalino. Borsalino really interesting in my opinion because Borsalino is just really good as we see the player on the left playing that character down, because Borsalino can't be KO'd by effects like the Absalom, like the Rob Lucci. So we'll see exactly how that plays out in terms of the longer game, but that Kuzan is going to be able to get a free swing and -4 cost on things like the Perona to be able to make stuff like Rob Lucci a lot easier to take out the Sindri and the Perona if they decide to do that. Going to be playing a Sindri of their own and building the trash. Really aggressive on the discards. Going to be Gecko Moria, 2 Peronas. I didn't get to catch the other cards, but very similar of the 2 Sindris that we've seen so far. So in 6 Dawn, now 1 used, 5 left. Probably going to see at least one of them attached to the leader Perona to be able to use the leader effect. Could be something that if you swing the Kuzan, right, and you put all of that damage on, or you put all that cost reduction on the Perona, you could Absalom it if you really wanted to at this point. So thinking about the 3 Dawn, and again, I really think they're heading towards the leader effect turn as the player on the left pulls a Hachin from their participation pack. Very friendly locals that we have here in Las Vegas. Going to be deciding, and it's really tricky. I wonder if the best thing is put 1 Dawn on the Gecko Moria right, swing lead, or actually swing Kuzan first, minus the Perona if your plan is to KO the Perona. And it looks like they're going to be attaching all the Dawn. I was wondering if it would be good to spread out the Dawn onto the Branu and be able to swing and apply more pressure, get more cards out of the hand, maybe rest the blocker, and ooh, just a quick fling of the discard pile. But the leader effect is going to grab a Dr. Hogback out of there, and the Dr. Hogback is going to get a Sabo and Great Eruption to the bottom and an 8-cost Moira into the hand. So I don't know exactly how I feel about this play. This 8 was swung at the Perona, really prioritizing the Perona, maybe just not even, and it looks like not even swinging the Kuzan, maybe just keeping the Kuzan, saying, you know what, you're not going to be able to discard it by attacking, so I'm going to have you try to KO it with, you know, the effects of like Rob Lucci and stuff like that. You don't have a you don't have a Kuzan of your own on the field, so getting it minus is going to depend on a Great Eruption, which we've already seen hit the trash, an Ice Age, something of the sort. So we'll see how the player on the left plays this out. 4 Dawn each now at the 7 Dawn turn. Right there, looking through the trash, has a Perona, Great Eruption, I think has a Branu in there as well. I think a Rob Lucci was in the bin, right? So could combo off of Rebecca to be able to bring back, not play down from hand if the person on the left is playing Rebecca. I know some people are on and off on the Rebecca builds, but going to be using Sindri to start off. So another Sindri comes down in this turn. And again, just trying to build that discard pile. Looks like it's going to be a lot of events. It's going to be an Ice Age, I think 2 Great Eruptions, and another card. I'm not 100% sure what the other card is in there, but if you see an Ice Age and 2 Great Eruptions off your Sindri, it's already some bad news. It looks like a brand new is in there as well, and I don't exactly know what the 5th card was, but with those options, a lot of not Thriller Bark stuff, so feels pretty bad, but going to be swinging 6, presumably at lead, and I'm not 100% sure if they're going to be using leader effect. It looks like they're just swinging 6 at this point, so going to be using a 2k counter Suru to get out of there, and with 4 cards left in hand, all of their Dawn left at this point besides 2. I think 5 Dawn. It's going to be playing a Sabo, just get a little bit more defensive, right, because you've had your discard pile be a ton of not stuff that you're looking for. I think a Helmeppo and Suru was drawn off of that Sabo right there. And so going to be discarding a double Helmeppo right there. And the double Helmeppo, I actually don't mind to be able to trash it. It is just a regular 1k counter, so obviously you kind of prioritize that over the 2s, and it's perfect in the trash for the 8-drop Gecko Moria to be one of your 2 characters that you get to play through that on play effect. So having the Helmeppos in there, you usually always try to have at least 1 in there, and so maybe just getting a little bit ahead, saying, you know what, I know I'm going to play 1 and maybe potentially bottom deck the other, even though you've put several events down. So maybe just putting 2 in there. You know, the other 3 or so cards, 3 or 4 cards are just more valuable overall to be able to maintain in this game. And so card advantage now to the player on the right on their 8 Dawn turn at this point. With the Sabo effect, the Kuzan is going to be in the same position as it was and not really having too many great targets to be able to take care of. The Sabo effect even protecting all the Sindris at this point. You could be able to just go a little bit slower and build up your board with the 8 cost Moira, but honestly no, I actually don't even like playing 8 cost Moira here, because you use your 8 cost Moira to combo stuff like Helmeppo and Lucci to be able to KO things, and you can't currently KO anything with this Sabo effect in play currently. So it's going to be an interesting spot for the player on the right. I maybe, if I was him, think about swinging these little swings overall, but also maybe trying to play another Dr. Hogbacking, get something back from the discard pile. Maybe if they're playing Rebecca, just block her up a little bit, be able to grab something as well. So it'll be curious to see this spot. Sabo is definitely a card that has gone up and up in, I believe, the Gecko Moira builds in popularity. So it's something that you're always going to have to be mindful of, especially if you're playing the deck or playing against the deck, being a Dressrosa character overall. But taking that 5k swing, not opting to block with the Borsalino or the Sabo, maybe just saying that, you know what, even though these are free blocks, I need to get good cards in my hand overall. And so going to be blocking that 5k swing right there, saying, you know what, I can take 1, but I'm not going to take a second one. And so here goes the Gecko Moira right here. We'll see what the Gecko Moira grabs. Overall, only 3 cards in hand. It's going to be a Borsalino active and then a brand new rested. So going to be, wait a minute. Oh, they just moved the Dr. Hogback over. I was like, did they just play 3? But they did not. So using the brand new effect, only going to be able to grab the Great Eruption. I don't think you hate that overall, because the Great Eruption is going to be good for when the opposing Gecko Moira comes down the 8-drop. But with the Sabo going to the discard pile, the Sabo is really awkward because it's really, really good, especially in this matchup, the mirror match, but it's going to be difficult. We did see in the left player's hand a flash of the Ice Age though, so if they do have some removal, they could potentially get rid of this opposing 8-drop Moira on their side, now being at, I believe, 9 Dawn overall in this one. The Kuzan still not really doing anything. I think also just kind of waiting the Kuzan for the 8-drop like I mentioned, so no need to really swing and put it in danger at this point. And going to be playing the Suru to minus the Kuzan, so directing the efforts to the Kuzan, now making it a 2-cost character instead of maybe the Gecko Moria. With that Ice Age in hand, they may use that Ice Age to be able to minus the cost of the Gecko Moria, right, to put it at 3, then use a 8-drop Gecko Moria if they have it in hand, put a Helmeppo and a Rob-Lucci down, and to be able to KO the Kuzan and the Gecko Moria, which in my opinion would be a very, very good play. So 8-drop Moira, it looks like they're just going to be trashing those 3 for the Helmeppo and the Rob-Lucci. There we go, like I was mentioning there, to be able to use that effect like I mentioned, minusing with the Helmeppo on probably the Gecko Moria, right, because the Gecko Moria will go to 0 and the Kuzan would be at 2, but opting to take out the Hogback instead. Oh, very interesting. It looks like they do have an 8-drop, or well, to be able to play, if you did, because they're at 9 Dawn, if they played the Suru and then played the Gecko Moira, they wouldn't have been able to get all of that because they couldn't play Ice Age that turn. If they had 10 Dawn, they'd be able to play the Ice Age. But anyways, getting rid of those 2, that makes a lot more sense. Good job on that player of signifying the math and not like me miscounting the Dawn. But now add 10 full Dawn on the player on the right side. They did have a Gecko Moira stick, and then also the Borsalino was alive, and so the brand new is going to be fighting the Helmeppo there. I think that's a easy just take. You know, no need to counter out of that one overall. If you're the player on the left, don't waste cards on that because you can just get that right back through the 8 cost again if you have another one. And so resting, it looks like, thinking about putting 3 Dawn to one side, 4 Dawn, and 3 Dawn again. What could be a good play that they need to do? We know that they have the Great Eruption in their hand, right, from the brand new, to be able to take out potentially the 8-drop Moira, but I think with the combination of cards that you have, you can't use Great Eruption and another 8-drop. I don't think you have enough stuff unless you have the Ice Age as well. So going to be using the Great Eruption, minusing 2 on, oh my gosh, it is going to be an Ice Age, so maybe they do have it. So minusing 7 overall on the Gecko Moira and putting it at 1 cost overall. If they do have an 8-drop to be played back-to-back 8s for a Helmeppo Lucci combo, they could put right there, and it's going to be an Absalom right there. So Absalom's still valuable because you do still get to take out the Gecko Moira, and we're going to put back a couple cards as well from the trash, those 2 events specifically that were played. Going to be using another Great Eruption, now at 3 Dawn overall, I think, left in the turn. So going to be using the leader effect, swinging 6 at the leader, going to be forcing maybe a 2k counter, trashing 2 cards, a Hogback and a Borsalino, but going to be grabbing another Absalom to be KOing that Lucci. So just like that, threats that you just put down on the field are neutralized because of the strength of this archetype. And so going to be blocking and providing a 1k counter Absalom on that swing. And so now with the 9 swing, going to be swinging 9 at that Borsalino, recognizing that, you know what, the Borsalino can't be KO'd unless it takes a big block. So I think based on, you know, me basically having another turn, they can't get rid of the Absaloms and the Gecko Moiras, they're actually going to be blocking with the Sabo on that and taking that KO. I think that's the correct decision if you want to keep this Porcelino alive. Obviously, you probably don't have the counter in hand, so the Sabo goes away because the Sabo effect is only on the turn that it's played until the next turn. And the Porcelino effect of not being KO'd by effects is the entire game. So, well, at least on your opponent's turn, it's the entire game. But anyways, going into now, all 10 done for the player on the left here. We'll see exactly what happens. They've got one Dawn that they want to play. We know that they have an Ice Age, so going to be Ice Aging that Gecko Moria, putting it to 3 overall, similar to what the opponent did in the previous turn. And so with only 2 cards left, could be something that they just go ahead and swing and maybe play another 8-drop of a Lucci Helmeppo combo of their own, but only KOing. Actually, no, they could KO like the Branu and the Gecko Moira, right? Because the Branu is a 2 if they did the Helmeppo Rob Lucci. I don't think that'd be a terrible idea if that's a play that you could go for. So going to potentially be swinging 6. We'll see if they end up using the leader effect, just doing a little bit of math in their head, doing a little bit of thinking, and going to be swinging 6 overall. Low hand size, and going to be a 2K Sindri to get out of that to 7. Still 4 life left in this game, and it looks like they do have the Gecko Moira in hand, so going to be playing that down, going to be grabbing the Helmeppo and Rob Lucci, going to be KOing the 2 that I had mentioned, the Gecko Moira and also the Branu, and putting down a couple characters. So honestly, it kind of stinks that you couldn't get rid of all of the Absaloms, but I think overall you're pretty happy with it. With the 3 cards that you had in your turn, you were able to take out the big 9k body in the Gecko Moira, and also another character on top of that that is pretty typical to attack sometimes. So really good job by the player on the left on that one. And now we'll probably move into the player on the right, because there's no Dawn left. He forgot to like manually rest his Dawn. So anyways, going into now the player on the right's turn, only a 2-card hand to work with at this point. And that's the thing about Gecko Moira, is I feel like a lot of times your Gecko Moira decks really just get low hand size at certain points of the game as it goes on, especially in these control-y type aspects with like Gecko Moira mirrors or against Sakazuki, stuff like that, because you're so focused on the control-y aspect of the game. So all 10 done, maybe could spread it around with the Absaloms, try to do a little bit of swinging here. I wonder if they'll just swing like 5 with the leader at the Helmeppo, or maybe like a 5 Absalom at the Helmeppo, and then maybe use leader effect to be able to play something like Dr. Hogback and get back a Gecko Moira for their next turn, right? You're technically taking a turn off of the Gecko Moira and the Gecko Moira, back and forth, but it could still work out in your favor as long as you keep seeing the cards. You do have to trash one of the 2 cards in your hand though if you do that play. So which card are you trashing? And maybe something that's very clear cut, something that you want to do, but it could be something that's a little bit more difficult to do. And so thinking about doing that play of the leader effects, so going to be resting the 2 and trashing an Ice Age, pitching a Perona and a Helmeppo. So going to be playing that Dr. Hogback, probably putting that Ice Age, and if they had another event in there, but if not, going to be like a Suru or Sindri. I feel like going to be that Suru, the typical option. So putting that back in, grabbing the Gecko Moira, like I mentioned. Again, can't play it this turn because you only have 7 Dawn left, but I think you've got a lot of damage that you can deal in this. If you have something like Sabo that you can play as they rest 5 Dawn, or maybe have 5 Dawn ready to rest, you can swing some 6s with the Absaloms, kind of do a little bit of poke damage, and then go ahead and rest 5 for the Sabo. That would protect all of your Absaloms, and they would just have to swing at them, but also just get you another blocker on the field. So going to be swinging the 5 at the Helmeppo, like I mentioned, maybe going to be doing 7 with the other Absalom, now that you really only needed 5 to be able to take that one guy out, and going to be swinging 7 now, like I mentioned, at life. So going to see how this goes. You could either block this, and maybe if you have a 2k counter Sindri in hand, you can get around this blocking counter to keep your Borsellino alive, or you just take the block overall. And it looks like they're just going to take the block overall, not give up any cards in their hand. We don't have as much hand knowledge as we did previously, but using the rest of that 5 to be able to grab a Sabo and pitching a Branu and something else, we can assume that that's probably the 8-drop Gecko Moria that's in their hand, and that's it, because it's a 1-card hand. So I think it was an Ice Age that they also pitched when they drew off of that Sabo. So not seeing another Ice Age, and that Ice Age probably going to the bottom of the deck could be a little bit tricky in the long run when you get to the Gecko Moira quote-unquote mirror battles, right, where you're just both playing down Gecko Moiras every single turn. Going to be swinging 6 overall, and it's going to be at that Absalom. That Absalom's going to be knocked out overall, not using leader effect. It's possible that because they left 9 Dawn open, they've got another Gecko just swinging a bear 6 overall, and going to be taking that Absalom, it looks like. So taking out multiple characters in this turn, really clearing board, not really going for any life. It is 4-2 overall on the life, but if you do have that Gecko, again, your odds just look really, really nice. And swinging a bear 9 at this and taking a life there, so the Gecko being a really, really good option in that sense. Going to be playing a Kuzan, so the Kuzan getting played, drawing a card. So only, let's see, that was 5 Dawn overall. Going to be the rest of the 5 playing another Sabo, protecting all of these characters and not be KO'd by effects. Gonna have to trash 2 more cards, and so it's going to be what looks like a Kuzan and an Absalom overall. So getting those prepped in the trash and then passing the turn off to the player on the right. Going to have 2 Borsellinos and a Hogbag. We know that the Gecko is coming, but the Gecko is not going to be able to KO anything. I think that's the big thing and the big play on Sabo. The reason that Sabo is so strong and that people are including it in their decks is especially for big turns against these black, mono black or partial black decks, is when you know that there's a Gecko Moira coming, you play down Sabo, right? Sabo, great protection. You know that they're not going to get the KO value that they usually want through that. If I was the player on the right, I would maybe consider getting the Kuzan back through the Gecko. It allows you not only to draw a card, but it also allows you to be able to try to get down these opposing Geckos, if not for swinging. So going to be swinging 5 at lead and going to be a 2k Suru, so not giving up any life, but giving up the Suru. Could have just blocked with the Sabo if he wanted to, but maybe just eyeing up, maybe doesn't want the Sabo to fall to an opposing Sabo attack or the big leader swing like there is right here. A 7 leader going to be taking out that Rob Lucci, so you feel pretty all right about that as the player on the right. And it's going to be that 8-drop. Again, I would love to see like a Kuzan Branu right here. And there's a Kuzan Branu. The Kuzan allowing you to draw a card and then also using Branu. I think maybe what I would have done if I was the player on the right, I think maybe what I would have done is done the Kuzan effect first. Because if you do the Kuzan effect first, you know, you get another card in hand, and that could influence when you Branu what you actually take, right? Because this was like a -1 card advantage, right? So I don't know if that's actually what you would do. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you would play it that way or not. I'd love to hear your opinion on it and they're going to draw a card. So quickly getting into a 4-card hand now at this point and passing the turn. This is a grungy mirror match. I don't even know if that's a word, but I've just made it a word overall. And so thinking about now what they need to do at this point, I don't know if it wouldn't be the worst idea to try to go a little bit more ultra aggressive, and I believe time is called now in the round. So turn 1 is the player on the left overall. And so going to be attaching 1 Dawn to the Kuzan and swinging 6, and it's going to be blocked by the Sabo. I think the Kuzan minus the other Kuzan, the opposing Kuzan, and a Rob Lucci is going to come down and KO the Kuzan and the Branu. So a great job by the player on the left, really recognizing that the Kuzan is going to be really important for getting this Gecko Moria away. So I'm going to take that out. And so now with some Dawn left to be able to do something, I think, let's see, they've got 1, they play the Rob Lucci, so that's 5 overall. They've got 5 Dawn left, I believe, overall. If they have another Sabo, that would be really good, actually, right here. But only 1 card left, so maybe going to prioritize putting this all around the characters, but going to be swinging 9 at lead. So this 9 with 4 cards in hand, you could take this. And remember, in the time rules, if the game is not finished by the end of time in the extra turns, it's about who has more life and then who has more deck size, right? I believe that's how it goes. Anyways, correct me if I'm wrong actually on that as well. But anyways, attaching some Dawn and swinging to lead. I think they attached 3 Dawn, so using the rest of the Dawn, attaching 3, putting down a Perona. Now with 5 cards in the hand, they're going to have to discard a card because of the Perona clause. And so pitching that Kuzan and blocking with the 2K Suru. And it looks like, I think maybe they swung 7 then, attaching 2 Dawn because of the 2K getting out of that. And so Rob Lucci swinging at the Borsalino, going to be a 1K counter with the Branu, and now back with 2 cards in hand, 3 cards after the turn is passed and they drew for turn. So I now believe that their turn 2 if time was actually called. I know it's been a long game. We've been recording for 35 minutes, so it wouldn't surprise me if time was called. Oh yes, it looks like time was called. So turn 2 is the player on the right. And so staring down, kind of a menacing board, to be honest. Getting that Perona down was a huge deal for the player. And so thinking about where they go now with these 3 cards. Ooh, Brightness. Going to be starting off with a Great Eruption, drawing a card, seeing what they can grab, and minusing a character. It looks like they're minusing the Kuzan. So maybe opting for a KO, and it looks like another Gecko Moria, and it's going to be the Helmeppo and Rob Lucci combo. So going to be taking out the Perona and the Kuzan. The thing about this though is that they need to KO, like the player on the left is going to be the final turn of the game, correct? So with that, you've got 2 swings that you've got left, 3 swings potentially if you swing with the Borsalino. But if you swing with the Borsalino and don't take out bodies, the thing is like you need to clear bodies without the Borsalino. So they have 1 card in hand, I believe, the player on the left. And so the player on the right, actually being a little bit honest, I think he directed the Helmeppo, announced the directing of the Helmeppo at the Sabo. So only going to be able to off the Rob Lucci because of the math with the Great Eruption and the Helmeppo, because both the Kuzan and the Sabo are at 2. There's going to be an extra character on the field with the Perona. So great job, you know, by the player on the right, like recognizing like, hey, I kind of made a mistake. This shouldn't have happened. So, I mean, recognizing real at that point. But if we do look at this, it does spell a little bit more danger for the player on the right, because again, with the time rules, with this being the final turn of the game, after this turn, the player with the less life loses, and if they're tied on life, it's whoever has the most in deck, and it looks like at this point that the player on the left has the most cards in deck, and with only like a 4-card hand, right, with bunches of 5k bodies, 6k, and a 9k, along with 10 Dawn to be able to manipulate, it's not looking that good for a 1 blocker. So going to be swinging 6 at the Kuzan to see exactly if they can take at least 1 body out overall. And with only 1 card in hand, it looks like it's going to be the Branu that's pitched there. It's going to be a 0-card hand, so you could swing the Gecko and at least clear the Gecko overall, but it's going to be really difficult. I don't think that you win in the extra time rules scenario overall. Misplaying the Helmeppo was really a doomsday for the player on the right, because now like they want to attach to the Borsalino and swing the Borsalino, and the Borsalino could clear a body being a 6k body, but also that allows you 1 less block of the incoming attacks. So just not looking good overall. Even if they did KO the Kuzan, like thinking about it this way, even if they did KO the Kuzan at this point, they would have 3 characters on board. They would have attached 1 Dawn onto the Moira and swung 6 at the Rob Lucci. Still would have been a 1k counter overall, but then this swing right here, this Gecko Moira swing, would be able to take out the Gecko Moira. I think you almost always just take out this character right here. That would be able to only have the Rob Lucci, the Perona, and the Gecko Moira. So it's still 3 characters overall, and so you're not feeling good. And again, there's no cards in hand, so swinging at the Gecko is the correct play overall. And yeah, you just have to hope that maybe, well, I mean, both players know the time rules. We went over it once time was called and explaining it, so just not looking good. Only 2 cards in hand. I thought there were 4 cards in hand, but turns out there wasn't. So they're just going to pass the turn off to the player on the left, going to be drawing a card and just messing around, having some fun with the opponent. Always a fun game here in Vegas. And so using the Dawn, just attach it to the Rob Lucci and swing. And there we go. Well, they can block 1 first, but they're just going to take it. And so, yeah, I mean, the distribution of Dawn in all the places would have just been too much for the player on the right to overcome. And so going to be taking this win is the player on the left in their custom Dawn that they've got going on. And so that's going to be all in this one. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you joining me in this video. This long game of the Gecko Moira mirror, literally going to full time. So if you want to see more, make sure to check out the channel soon. We've got some interesting content coming soon on the channel with not only local matches and the other usual shenanigans that we do, but also I'm looking to potentially get some more analytical matches, especially of my matches. Some of you have been saying in the comments like, oh Jake, why don't you showcase your matches? Well, I'm not at table 1, right? And like so I don't show my matches, and so being able to potentially use some of my matches with some online tournaments that I've entered in recent times, some Discord webcam games from other popular content creators like the Eggman and Cross AI, since I can't get into any regionals, but having someone there who is a much better player than I am kind of analytically look at it with me, and it's almost like coaching. So if you like free coaching, maybe check out the channels in the future. Anyways, bye.